Welcome to Israel Now News. I'm Rebekah Roberts.
And I'm Yochanan Elrom.
In our top story, former U.S. President Donald Trump has called on Israel to strike Iran's nuclear facilities. This comes in response to the Biden-Harris administration's pressure on Israel to exact a proportional response after the radical Islamic regime fired 181 ballistic missiles on the Jewish state. The Biden White House has warned Israel to stay away from Tehran's nuclear sites and said that the G7 nations all agree that Israel should avoid sensitive targets in Iran. The Biden-Harris administration has released almost $200 billion in sanctions relief to the fanatic Islamic Republic, which is racing towards nuclear breakout, despite Iran's official foreign policy of wiping Israel off the map. Trump slammed Biden's response to the missile attack as being the craziest thing he has ever heard. He said the biggest threat we face is Tehran's rogue nuclear program, and he called on Jerusalem to strike Iran's nuclear facilities.
The Biden-Harris administration has announced that it will send $157 million to Lebanon, despite the daily rocket attacks on Israel emanating from Lebanese territory. Democratic presidential candidate Kamala Harris said the aid will go to assist the dire humanitarian situation in Lebanon. Harris noted that with this additional financial package, U.S. assistance to Lebanon has totaled more than $385 million this year. Several American officials voiced their opposition to the move, noting that so far the Biden-Harris administration has sent much less financial assistance to the communities in the United States that were devastated by Hurricane Helene. The lawmakers blamed Joe Biden for releasing billions of dollars in sanctions against Iran, which has helped fund and arm the Hezbollah terrorist army. Mark Zell, the chairman of the Republicans Overseas Israel, said giving aid to Lebanon in the midst of Israel's fight to survive is a betrayal of America's most loyal ally and the only democracy in the Middle East.
Memorial ceremonies marking 1 year since the Hamas invasion of Israel were marred by terrorist attacks. Services in Israel were drastically scaled down due to imminent threats from Iran and its proxies. The IDF thwarted a major bombardment of rocket fire from Hamas in Gaza, but the terror group was able to fire 2 rockets towards Tel Aviv and several into southern Israel during the day of mourning. More than 135 rockets were fired from Lebanon into northern Israel, and terrorists in Yemen marked the occasion by firing a ballistic surface-to-surface missile on the Jewish state. Anti-Israel rallies or celebrations of the Hamas atrocities were staged around the globe, some of them turning violent and most of them calling for the destruction of Israel.
The Hamas terrorist organization has admitted that 80% of the deaths in Gaza are members of the terror group or their families. The Hamas-run Ministry of Health claims that over 41,000 Gazans have been killed in the genocidal war against Israel. The international community has accepted this faulty information as fact and has vilified Israel and even withheld weapons that could be used in Gaza. Meanwhile, experts challenge the accuracy of the figures, insisting that the claims of Hamas are statistically impossible. Israel's Channel 12 News reported that Hamas is privately admitting that the vast majority of the casualties in Gaza are in fact affiliated with the Hamas terror group.
The Iranian general who vowed to see American bodies strewn all over the Middle East has likely been killed in an Israeli airstrike in Lebanon. General Ismail Ka'ani replaced Qasem Soleimani in 2020 as the head of the Iranian Quds Force after Soleimani was assassinated by U.S. forces. Ka'ani has been out of contact since the attack in Lebanon, which killed Hashem Safiuddin, who was appointed to succeed Hassan Nasrallah as the leader of Hezbollah. The Iranian-backed terror army has lost the vast majority of its leadership in targeted attacks, and there are numerous reports of panic among the remaining ranks of Hezbollah.
Disturbing news coming out of Great Britain. A recent report reveals that young people in the United Kingdom are becoming increasingly radicalized. A survey published by YouGov reflects that 16% of young Brits believe that last year's October 7th genocidal attack by Hamas was justified. 1 in 11 British citizens aged 18 to 24 expressed a favorable view of the Hamas terror group, while 13% do not believe the massacre of Jews occurred as reported. 23% of young Britons do not believe that Israel has the right to defend itself, while 1 in 5 do not believe that Israel has the right to exist as a homeland for the Jewish people. The Campaign Against Anti-Semitism released a statement saying, "Extremism is becoming normalized in the UK, and as always, Jews are the canaries in the coal mine." Most alarming is the fact that young people are becoming radicalized at a far greater rate than the rest of the population.
The IDF has launched another ground operation in northern Gaza to prevent Hamas terrorists from regrouping and rearming. Israeli forces surrounded the city of Jabalia and evacuated civilians from northern Gaza to humanitarian zones. It also published maps showing evacuation routes and warned civilians to vacate the area. Israeli airstrikes have targeted weapons stockpiles, tunnels, and cells of Hamas terrorists. This is the fourth incursion into Jabalia, which has been the scene of some of the most intense and violent fighting since the onset of the war in Gaza.
Former U.S. President Donald Trump made a major commitment to the Jewish state as he marked 1 year since the October 7th Hamas massacre in Israel. Trump called October 7th one of the darkest moments in history and vowed that he would not permit Israel to be threatened with destruction. He said, "I will not allow another Holocaust of the Jewish people. I will not allow a jihad to be waged on America or our allies. I will support Israel's right to win its war on terror, and it has to win it." The Republican presidential hopeful said the upcoming election on November 5th will be the most important day in history for America as well as for Israel.
More than 100 Christian leaders gathered in Jerusalem last week to pray for the peace of Jerusalem and for all of Israel. The mass prayer event was hosted by Bishop Robert Stearns, who said that he was proud to be in Jerusalem on the first anniversary of the Hamas massacre to send a message of clear support to Israel. The event was held at the Friends of Zion Museum and was live-streamed to millions of Christians worldwide. This marked the 20th anniversary of the Day of Prayer for Peace of Jerusalem, which was launched by Bishop Stearns and Dr. Jack Hayford in 2004.
Prophecy continues to be fulfilled in the land of Israel. Today we are witnessing events that were foretold in the Bible thousands of years ago. The prophet Joel wrote, "Blow a shofar in Zion and sound an alarm on my holy mount." Until now, the idea that Jews could blow the ram's horn on the Temple Mount seemed impossible because Mount Moriah has been ruled by Israel's enemies for over 2,000 years. The Islamic Waqf currently controls the holiest site in Judaism. It restricts non-Muslim visitation and strictly forbids Jews and Christians from praying there. In an exciting turn of events this year, several Jews were able to ascend the Temple Mount on the high holiday of Rosh Hashanah, and they sounded the shofar 100 times. Israel 365 News noted that this is probably the first time since the destruction of the Second Temple that Jews were able to fulfill this biblical commandment.
This week, Jews around the world will dwell in tabernacles as commanded by the Bible in Leviticus chapter 23. The Sukkot holiday is truly a special time in Israel where makeshift booths can be seen in yards, porches, and patios. The Bible instructs Jews to take up the 4 species, which include a palm branch, etrog, myrtle, and willow branches. The Festival of Sukkot has also become a popular time for Christians to travel to the Holy Land in fulfillment of the words of the prophet Zechariah, who said, "It shall come to pass that all nations will come up to Jerusalem to worship the King, the Lord of hosts, and to keep the Feast of Tabernacles."
One of the spiritual highlights of Sukkot is the priestly blessing. Tens of thousands of Jews make their way to the Western Wall in the old city of Jerusalem for the Birkat HaKohanim ceremony. This mass prayer is also performed during the springtime holiday of Passover. The ceremony originates from the biblical commandment that the Israelites must come up to the temple in Jerusalem during the 3 pilgrimage festivals of Passover, Shavuot, and Sukkot. The priestly blessing is recited by Kohanim who pray over the people of Israel. It says, "May God bless you and keep you. May his glory shine upon you. May he be gracious to you, and may he give you peace. We at Israel Now News extend that same blessing to you and to all of our viewers around the world. Chag Sukkot Sameach. Happy Sukkot. That concludes the news portion of our show. Stay tuned for Ask the Source with Josh Reinstein.
Hello and welcome to Ask the Source. I'm your host, Josh Reinstein, and we're here in our beautiful studio in Jerusalem. My guest today is Barry Denison. He's the CFO of the International Christian Embassy, USA. Barry, thanks for being on the show.
Glad to be here, Josh.
Barry, tell our viewers a little about what is the ICEJ?
The ICEJ is the International Christian Embassy, Jerusalem, which was founded by a group of Christian leaders in 1980 to show Christian support for the idea that Jerusalem is the eternal capital of Israel and the Jewish people.
Our audience needs no introduction to ICEJ. You do a segment weekly on the show about things that are happening on the ground here in Israel. How important is it to actually be here on the ground?
Well, our founding purpose is from Isaiah chapter 40, verse 1, where God's speaking to someone who's not Jewish, telling them to comfort his people. And it's hard to comfort somebody if you're not present. You're not there with them. And so our team of 50 people here on the ground, doing all the things we do with bomb shelters and assistance, etc., is the purpose of just telling Israel and the Jewish people, Bible-believing Christians support you, love you, and believe you're supposed to be here.
Well, you've been doing a lot of comforting since October 7th.
Yes.
I think that you've been around as an organization for decades, but never has it been a more important moment than right now. Do you agree?
I agree, and for me right now, this moment in history is also kind of a God's challenge to the church. We don't talk about it a whole lot as Christians, but in the words of Jesus, he says, "There will be those who say to me, 'Lord, Lord,' and he will say, 'Depart from me, I never knew you.'" And I think the whole wave of anti-Semitism provoked by October 7 is God challenging the church. Are you going to stand with Israel? Or are you going to buy into the culture of the world?
There's not many Christian tourists here right now, and there aren't many Christian organizations on the ground. So you've kind of been the de facto face of Christian support for Israel here in Israel since October 7th. What kind of responsibility is that?
It's a joyful responsibility. I wanted to say heavy because there's a certain seriousness about it. But being able to see my friends, one of my friends, Elisha, who after October 7, he was at over 100 funerals because he knew all of those communities, and just be with him and comfort him, it's vital.
It feels like you guys are everywhere. You're doing ambulances and helping people who were sent away from their homes for security reasons, yes, and replanting vineyards. And how are you able to spread yourself so thin?
That's a good question. And I guess my answer would be to say, thank God we've got a team of about 55 Christians from 17 nations around the world here in Israel. And their hard work and dedication as volunteers enables us to do all of this.
You've obviously ramped up activities since October 7th. Have Christians answered the call?
In an amazing way. Being responsible now for the finances in the U.S. office for the Christian Embassy, October, November, December last year broke all of our records in terms of donations. And the majority of it was designated to our Israel in Crisis Fund, meaning that the Christian Embassy here in Israel gets to determine what's the biggest crises. And this year, we're seeing about 30% more donations than we have last year.
What is the response of Israelis to Christian support for Israel on the ground? What do they say when you come and you bring help or support?
Oftentimes, they don't believe it. The unfortunate 2,000-year history of Christian anti-Semitism has predisposed the Jewish people to not expect the Christian community to be moving in their favor. And so there's this initial kind of unbelief. Why? But afterwards, it's a very moving expression of gratitude. Very profound, very real thank you.
Your big event every year is the Feast of Tabernacles. It's the biggest tourist event in Israel. How is October 7th shaping this year's event?
That's a good question. The Feast of Tabernacles, which has been held by the Christian Embassy ever since its founding in 1980, is based on the prophet's word in Zechariah 14, where God says he will bring the Gentiles up from the nations to worship him in Jerusalem. This year, we don't know what kind of a crowd to expect. We're preparing that if we have a few hundred, we'll do it. If we have 1,000 or more, we'll do it. And we'll also have a strong online presence.
This week is the Feast of Tabernacles. It's about to happen. What about people who haven't signed on or might be in the land of Israel? How can they get involved in it? How can they be a part of it?
If they're here in the land, they can call our office in Jerusalem, or they can go to our website, ICEJ.org, and register physically. And from anywhere in the world, they can register online and catch it all live streamed or video on demand after the fact. In fact, we will let people register for a month or so online after the Feast of Tabernacles is over.
You mentioned that this is the fulfillment of prophecy, that God has called the nations to come up to Jerusalem for the feast. What kind of impact does it have on people who take part in that?
The testimony of Christians who come up to Jerusalem during the feast is amazing. It's life-changing. Oftentimes, it's their first trip to Israel. In spite of the millions of Christian tourists in a normal year, it's their chance to be here, and God impacts their life, makes their faith real in a way that's life-changing.
Barry, there are literally tens of millions of people watching this show. What message do you have for our viewing audience?
Pray for Israel. Pray for the Jewish people. Get to know your Jewish community where you're at. Find out if they're dealing with anti-Semitism, and see how your church and your Christian community can stand with them. And stand with Israel.
Thank you, Barry, for being on the show. And thank you for tuning in to Ask the Source. I'm your host, Josh Reinstein, wishing you a happy Feast of Tabernacles. Now back to the studio.
And now the truth from Zion.
Israel has emerged as a global leader in the field of cybersecurity, establishing itself as a hub of innovation, cutting-edge technologies, and robust defense capabilities. The country's prominence in this area stems from a combination of historical necessity, government support, an entrepreneurial ecosystem, and world-class military expertise. From protecting critical infrastructure to leading developments in artificial intelligence and cyber defense, Israel has played a pivotal role in shaping the global cybersecurity landscape. One of the most significant factors driving Israel's dominance in cybersecurity is its unique geopolitical situation. Surrounded by adversaries and faced with continuous security threats since its founding in 1948, Israel has developed a culture of vigilance and innovation in defense. The need to protect itself from various military, terrorist, and cyber threats has led the nation to prioritize defense technologies. Cybersecurity became especially crucial as modern warfare shifted from physical to digital domains. The increasing use of cyber attacks by hostile actors, including state-sponsored hackers, terrorist organizations, and criminal syndicates, pose new challenges to Israel's security apparatus. As a result, Israel has built a comprehensive approach to cyber defense, including securing government operations, critical infrastructure, transportation, financial systems, and military networks.
Iran's terror campaign against Israel is not just being waged with rockets and missiles, but also through cyber attacks. Cybersecurity is paramount in the war against Iran and its proxies.
The fanatic Shiite regime in Iran has launched several cyber attacks on Israel over the past decades, with some significant incidents drawing global attention. In April 2020, Iranian hackers tried to disrupt Israel's water infrastructure. Israel quickly detected and thwarted the attempt, avoiding any major damage. Israel allegedly responded by launching a retaliatory cyber attack targeting Iran's key infrastructure, including a vital seaport. These cyber confrontations highlight the ongoing digital warfare between the two nations, with both sides engaging in covert operations. A key component behind Israel's success in cybersecurity is the role of its military, specifically elite cyber branches within the Israel Defense Forces. The most prominent of these is Unit 8200, an elite military intelligence group responsible for signals intelligence and cyber defense. Often referred to as the School of Hackers, Unit 8200 has been instrumental in training generations of cybersecurity experts. The IDF has a long tradition of identifying and cultivating young talent for intelligence and technology roles. Many of Israel's leading cybersecurity innovators are alumni of Unit 8200. The unit has a reputation for rapid innovation, creative problem solving, and a culture of entrepreneurship, enabling veterans to create cutting-edge technologies and launch startups focused on cyber defense, all of which have contributed to Israel's broader success in cybersecurity. The Israeli government has also played a pivotal role in fostering the country's cybersecurity industry through proactive policies, investment, and collaboration with the private sector. In 2010, Israel established the National Cyber Directorate, INCD, a governmental body responsible for coordinating the nation's cybersecurity policies, strategies, and defense efforts. Israel has a vibrant tech ecosystem and is often referred to as the startup nation. Israeli startups have made significant contributions to the global cybersecurity landscape. The country is home to one of the highest concentrations of cybersecurity startups in the world. As of 2024, Israel accounts for over 10% of global cybersecurity exports, despite its small population. The country's cybersecurity startups are known for their innovation, agility, and ability to respond quickly to emerging threats. These companies have helped shape cybersecurity practices worldwide, providing solutions to governments, financial institutions, and corporations across various industries. Moreover, Israel's cybersecurity sector attracts significant venture capital investment. International tech giants like Microsoft, Google, and IBM have established research and development centers in Israel, further enhancing its status as a global cybersecurity hub. Faced with a unique set of challenges, Israel has developed world-class cybersecurity solutions that not only protect its national interest, but also contribute to global cyber defense efforts. Up next, the ICEJ Report from the International Christian Embassy, Jerusalem.
Today we are in Moshav Tramim, which is close to Sderot. I am here with a group of 23 people from all around the world that have decided to come, especially during this time, to stand with Israel and show it in like a practical way. So during the past about 10 days, we have renovated bomb shelters, we have cooked meals for the families of the hostages. We've also visited different places. We've done many different things, and today we're harvesting lemons.
Since 1980, the International Christian Embassy Jerusalem has been a voice of Christian support for Israel and connected the global church to the land of the Bible. Headquartered in Jerusalem, the ICEJ has taken action to stand with Israel by caring for Holocaust survivors, helping Jewish families return home to Israel, providing bomb shelters, fighting anti-Semitism around the world, and by inviting Christians to discover Israel for themselves.
When October 7th happened, we took it personally. You know, we were heartbroken, and we were praying a lot about it, and I wanted to do something more than just pray. I wanted to put my prayers into action.
In this hard time, if we don't come to Israel or stand up for Israel, when should we do it? I have friends living down at the border, so it affected me very much. Not only as a Christian, but as a human being. I know one of them is hostage in Gaza.
this is a job for me. I like to work with my hands and I like to work with people, so I give myself to a volunteer. I see Jewish people who still go on. They have a lot of pain in their heart, but they still go on, and they're so happy that we are here to help them.
Look at history. If we remain silenced, we'll be next. You know, and the problem is we already see this lesson from history. When the Christian church was silent, the Holocaust happened. Our stance needs to be bolder, our light needs to shine brighter, and we need to advocate for truth.
We have to come here, support the people and make them understand that they are not alone. And when we come back to our home countries, we have more information, more strength to tell our co-workers, our friends, family members, neighbors about what we have seen here.
After Hamas brutally attacked Israel on October the 7th, 2023, the ICEJ has been actively standing with Israel and her people through advocacy and urgently needed aid projects. Now is the time for Christians to turn their love for Israel and the Jewish people into real action as never before. Your donation will help deliver bomb shelters to at-risk areas, provide necessary supplies for first responders, care for evacuees with food, shelter, clothing, and trauma care, and will eventually help rebuild these devastated communities. Visit ICEJUSA.tv to donate online or call 1-800-910-6355 and give your generous gift today.
That's all for this edition of Israel Now News. I'm Rebekah Roberts.
And I'm Yochanan Elrom, reporting from our studio in Jerusalem. Join us again next week for all of your Israel updates.